it seems that Denmark's economy has been relatively sluggish since the financial crisis of 2008. The export performance has also been hit by ebbing demand in country's main European market. It's from Wall Street Journal on August 31st, 2016. How do you see the outlook of Denmark's economy in this year? If the economic pressure continues, do you think this could affect the high living standard that we have talked about, and then to the happiness index in the world as it used to be entitled to your country?
Well, we would love to trade our growth rates with the growth rates of Indonesia. With 5% growth rates, it seems almost impossible for us to reach. But it is true, our economy has not grown with the same level as we've seen in the past decades. And I think there are a number of reasons for that. I mean, a more competitive global market, and perhaps additional constraints on the economy at home, also after the financial crisis. I think these days we are optimistic that it's going in the right direction. We have record low unemployment, and the economy is beginning to pick up pace. But I think also in 2017, it's important to be realistic that we might not see the high growth rates that we've seen in the past. I think those growth rates approaching double digits is primarily reserved to growth countries like Indonesia, other countries around the world, which is really picking up pace and seeing huge developments and huge growth potentials. That's of course also one of the reasons why we are enormously ambitious in building a strong partnership with Indonesia, and one of the reasons why here at the embassy we work 24/7 on promoting investment and business opportunities, because we think it's a mutually beneficial situation where we can help Indonesia solve some of the challenges on growth, on environmental issue, on energy, and at the same time, get some good growth rates into businesses or into investment funds. So I'm optimistic, and I think the economy is looking stronger today in Denmark than it has for many years. But realistically, we also have to get used to perhaps a more modest growth pace than we've had in the past. You mentioned whether this is threatening the welfare states and some of the services that we have. And honestly, I think the answer is yes, that there is a constant challenge to make sure that the budget or the economy of Denmark is strong enough to support those welfare services, education, healthcare, etc. And it is a volatile system where it doesn't take too much crisis to affect our ability to deliver everything we do. And then we also have to remember that the demographic development also means that we're getting a more elderly population, which again increases demands on the healthcare sector and on public spending. So it's there are many things that contribute to some of the difficulties for the economy.
Denmark has helped Indonesia a lot regarding certain sectors such as maritime, pharmacy and energy. Yeah. We have discussed about energy. However, it seems like Denmark's investment level here is not as strong as other European countries, such as perhaps Switzerland, Luxembourg and Belgium. According to our latest data in BKPM, could you please tell us, is there any programs, let's say, in this year that could strengthen our ties?
Well, let me again be honest in saying I'm not satisfied with where we are right now with our trade between Indonesia and Denmark. I mean, despite being the world's fourth largest country, you're only the 57th export destination for Denmark, and it goes without saying that the potential is much greater than that. So that's what we're working on with the business community to try and change every day. At the same time, we are already present here, and I can give you a couple of examples on companies that have made quite significant investments. One of the companies that is on the table here, Maersk Line, the world leader in shipping and logistics. They've been here since the 1920s, and in fact, one of the first ships that brought coffee from Sumatra to New York was on a Maersk ship back in the 1920s. And still today, they are helping on connectivity and really making it possible for Indonesian products to reach the global market, whether we talk coffee, cocoa, coconut products, or other commodities. So that's a company with a very large turnaround here. Another company would be ISS, the facility service provider. And many people don't know that, but that's a Danish company with more than 60,000 employees. If we look a little bit further away in Surabaya, we have a shoe factory, Echo, with 8,000 employees producing high-quality shoes for the global market. Most of it is not used here in Indonesia. So the investments are there. But the honest answer again is that many more companies are incredibly interested in investing into Indonesia to help build up the economy or help, with specific challenges. But it is not the easiest market to enter, unfortunately. So many of the companies experience difficulties of one kind or another. And that's what we're working also with the Indonesian government on trying to help that reform process, that you can grow the economy and make trade more easy and actually do it in both directions so that it becomes a positive effect on countries both here and abroad. I think one of the areas where we're working very closely with Indonesia right now is on waste management. One of the great things of being posted here in Indonesia is, of course, that you can visit some of the many islands that you have. And I really love that, and I try and travel as much as I can. But of course, you also see the flip side of development, which is a lot of waste problems, even in remote areas. And I think that's something that the President Jokowi's government is now beginning to address in a more systematic way. And this week I had a meeting with the coordinating minister for maritime affairs, Pak Luhut, and I think he's showing real leadership out of the acknowledgement that you have to do something about the waste problem, both for an environmental reason, for a tourism reason, because if tourists swims around and you get waste on you, they will probably not come back to Indonesia after that. But also just to grow the economy and make sure we don't contribute to global pollution. So I think that kind of leadership can make a real change for any country, whether it's the US, European countries, or Southeast Asian countries, including Indonesia.
Right. Do you have any take on sustainable energy?
It's one of the flagships in our bilateral relationship with Indonesia. So we put a lot of resources into that. We've had a development program here for many years focusing on sustainable energy. And lately we have an energy expert sitting here at the embassy who's working with the Indonesian government to promote sustainable energy. Now, our vision for that partnership is that we think we can help Indonesia increase the amount of renewable energy in the energy portfolio. And one example where we are very strong is on wind energy. And I very often hear when I meet with ministers or decision makers that you have no wind in Indonesia. And therefore wind has no future. And what always happens is that I pull out a map that we paid for as part of our development cooperation, which is a wind map of all of Indonesia. And it shows exactly where the wind is strong and where you have enormous potential for wind energy.
Where is the farming?
Well, it's many different places, but South Sulawesi is one example, the southern part of Java, the southern part of Sumatra, Nusa Tenggara. There are many places, even in Papua, where the wind is fantastic and where it holds a huge potential for bringing renewable clean energy into Indonesia. And that would benefit both economic growth, but it would also benefit you and me in the sense that pollution would go down and healthcare problems would reduce at the same time. So it's really a win-win opportunity. It's easier to recycle a solar panel than it is to recycle oil or coal once it's being burned. And the interesting thing with solar panels, and I don't know if you know this, but every 22 months the productivity is doubled on solar panels right now. So you have exponential development of solar panels. So in other words, it's becoming cheaper and cheaper and more efficient. So I think we can probably make a small bet, the two of us, but I think what we will see is a revolution in energy production where renewable energy will become much more cheap thanks to technology developments, and it will actually outcompete fossil fuels in a very, very short time span. And I could easily envisage a world where energy is not in shortage, but we have a surplus production of energy, and that could be turned into all sorts of productive things that would increase development, healthcare, education, etc. So I think that's the kind of of technology evolution that we're looking at over the next years.
Right. So what's the biggest source of renewable energy in Denmark?
That's wind energy, because as I mentioned before, we're not happy because of the weather, and one of the things that we have plenty of is wind. Very often quite cold, and always in the wrong direction when you're biking to work in Copenhagen or in some of the other cities. So today, here in the beginning of 2017, 43% of our energy production comes from wind energy. So 43%, almost half of our energy production. And on good days or on bad days, depending on what you're doing, where the wind is strong, actually more than 100% of our energy production comes from wind, which means that we have a surplus production and we export it to our neighboring countries. So wind is fantastic, and in fact we have a vision to completely get rid of fossil fuels by the year 2050. In other words, in 2050 we will become completely green, completely renewable.